Hello, everybody. This is The Home in the World by Rabindranath Tagore. Chapter 8, Nikhil's Story, Part 11. I'm worried over Panchu's sham aunt. It'll be difficult to disprove her, for though witnesses of a real event may be few or even wanting, innumerable proofs of a thing that has not happened can always be marshaled. The object of this move is evidently to get the sale of Panchu's holding to me set aside. Being unable to find any other way out of it, I was thinking of allowing Panchu to hold a permanent tenure in my estates and building him a cottage on it. But my master would not have it. I should not give in to these nefarious tactics so easily, he objected, and offered to attend to the matter himself. You, sir, I cried, considerably surprised. Yes, I, he repeated. I couldn't see, at all clearly, what my master could do to counteract these legal machinations. That evening, at the time he usually came to me, he didn't turn up. On my making inquiries, his servant said he had left home with a few things packed in a small trunk and some bedding, saying he would be back in a few days. I thought he might have sallied forth to hunt for witnesses in Panchu's uncle's village. In that case, however, I was sure that his would be a hopeless quest. During the day, I forget myself in my work. As the late autumn afternoon wears on, the colors of the sky become turbid, and so do the feelings of my mind. There are many in this world whose minds dwell in brick-built houses. They can afford to ignore the thing called the outside. But my mind lives under the trees in the open, directly receives upon itself the messages borne by the free winds, and responds from the bottom of its heart to all the musical cadences of light and darkness. While the day is bright and the world in the pursuit of its numberless tasks crowds around, then it seems as if my life wants nothing else. But when the colors of the sky fade away, and the blinds are drawn down over the windows of heaven, then my heart tells me that evening falls just for the purpose of shutting out the world, to mark the time when the darkness must be filled with the One. This is the end to which earth, sky, and waters conspire, and I cannot harden myself against accepting its meaning. So when the gloaming deepens over the world, like the gaze of the dark eyes of the beloved, then my whole being tells me that work alone cannot be the truth of life. The work is not the be-all and the end-all of man, for man is not simply a serf, even though the serfdom be of the true and the good. Alas, Nico, have you forever parted company with that self of yours who used to be set free under the starlight, to plunge into the infinite depths of the night's darkness after the day's work is done? How terribly alone is he who misses companionship in the midst of the multitudinousness of life. The other day, when the afternoon reached the meeting point of day and night, I had no work, nor the mind for work, nor was my master there to keep me company. With my empty, drifting heart longing to anchor onto something, I traced my steps towards the inner gardens. I was very fond of chrysanthemums, and had a row of them, all varieties, banked up in pots against one of the garden walls. When they were in flower, it looked like a wave of green breaking into iridescent foam. It was some time since I had been to this part of the grounds, and I was beguiled into a cheerful expectancy at the thought of meeting my chrysanthemums after a long separation. I went in. The full moon had just peeped over the wall, her slanting rays leaving its foot in deep shadow. It seemed as if she had come a tiptoe from behind, clasped the darkness over the eyes, smiling mischievously. When I came near the bank of chrysanthemums, I saw a figure stretched on the grass in front. My heart gave a sudden thud. The figure also sat up with a start at my footsteps. What was to be done next? I was wondering whether it would do to beat a precipitate retreat. Bimala also was doubtless casting about for some way to escape, but it was as awkward to go as to stay. Before I could make up my mind, Bimala rose, pulled the end of her sari over her head, and walked off towards the inner apartments. This brief pause had been enough to make real to me the cruel load of Bimala's misery. The plaint of my own life vanished from me in a moment, and I called out, "Bimala." She started and stayed her steps, but didn't turn back. I went round and stood before her. Her face was in the shade, and the moonlight fell on mine. Her eyes were downcast, her hands clenched. "Bimala," said I, "why should I seek to keep you fast in this closed cage of mine? Do I not know that thus you cannot but pine and droop?" She stood still, without raising her eyes or uttering a word. I know, I continued, that if I insist on keeping you shackled my whole life, I know, I continued, that if I insist on keeping you shackled, my whole life will be reduced to nothing but an iron chain. What pleasure can that be to me? She was still silent. So, I concluded, I tell you truly, Bimala, you're free. Whatever I may or may not have been to you, I refuse to be your fetter. With which I came away towards the outer apartments. No, it wasn't a generous impulse nor indifference. I simply come to understand that never would I be free until I could set free. To try to keep Bimala as a garland round my neck would have meant keeping a weight hanging over my heart. Have I not been praying with all my strength that if happiness might not be mine, let it go? If grief needs must be my lot, then let it come. But let me not be kept in bondage. To clutch hold of that which is untrue, as though it were true, is only to throttle oneself. May I be saved from such self-destruction. When I entered my room, I found my master waiting there. My agitated feelings were still heaving within me. Freedom, sir, I began unceremoniously, without greeting or inquiry. Freedom is the biggest thing for man. Nothing can be compared to it. Nothing at all. Surprised at my outburst, my master looked up at me in silence. One can understand nothing from books, I went on. We read in the scriptures that our desires are bonds, fettering us as well as others. But such words by themselves are so empty. It's only when we get to the point of letting the bird out of its cage that we can realize how free the bird has set us. Whatever we cage shackles us with desire whose bonds are stronger than those of iron chains. I tell you, sir, this is just what the world has failed to understand. They all seek to reform something outside themselves, but reform is wanted only in one's own desires, nowhere else, nowhere else. We think, he said, that we are our own masters when we get in our hands the object of our desire. But we are really our own masters only when we're able to cast out our desires from our minds. When we put all this into words, sir, I went on, it sounds like some bald-headed injunction, but when we realize even a little of it, we find it to be Amrita, which the gods have drunk and become immortal. We cannot see beauty till we let go our hold on it. It was Buddha who conquered the world, not Alexander. This is untrue when stated in dry prose. When shall we be able to sing it? When shall all these most intimate truths of the universe overflow the pages of printed books and leap out in a sacred stream like the Ganges from the Ganga tree? I was suddenly reminded of my master's absence during the last few days and of my ignorance as to its reason. I felt somewhat foolish, and I asked him, "Where have you been all this while, sir?" "Staying with Panchu," he replied. "Indeed," I exclaimed. "Have you been there all these days?" "Yes. I wanted to come to an understanding with the woman who calls herself his aunt. She could hardly be induced to believe that there could be such an odd creature among the gentlefolk as the one who sought their hospitality. When she found I really meant to stay on, she began to feel rather ashamed of herself. 'Mother,' said I, 'you're not going to get rid of me, even if you abuse me. And so long as I stay, Panchu stays also. For you see, do you not, that I cannot stand by and see his motherless little one sent out into the streets?' She listened to my talks in this strain for a couple of days without saying yes or no. This morning I found her tying up her bundles. 'We're going back to Brindaban,' she said. 'Let us have our expenses for the journey.' I knew she wasn't going to Brindaban, and also that the cost of her journey would be substantial, so I've come to you. 'The required cost shall be paid,' I said. 'This old woman's not a bad sort,' my master went on musingly. 'Panchu was not sure of her caste, and wouldn't let her touch the water jar or anything at all of his, so they were continually bickering. When she found I had no objection to her touch, she looked after me devotedly. Oh, she's a splendid cook.' But all remnants of Panchu's respect for me vanished. To the last he had thought I was at least a simple sort of person, but here I was, risking my caste without a qualm to win over the old woman for my purpose. Had I tried to steal a march on her by tutoring a witness for the trial, that would have been a different matter. Tactics must be met by tactics, but stratagem at the expense of orthodoxy is more than he can tolerate. Anyhow, I must stay on a few days at Panchu's, even after the woman leaves, for Harish Kundu may be up to any kind of devilry. He's been telling his satellites that he was content to have furnished Panchu with an aunt, but I've gone to the length of supplying him with a father. He would like to see now how many fathers of his can save him. We may or may not be able to save him, I said, but if we should perish in the attempt to save the country from the 1,001 snares of religion, custom, selfishness, which these people are busy spreading, at least we die happy.